Testing 1, 2, 3. The sound bar is moving. I am live. It is bright and early this morning. I have a lot going on today, so I'm going to keep today's brief. But I wanted to get my collar patterned, cut out, sewed, and pressed. I'm not going to sew it in until all the layers go together, but I wanted to have that collar finished for the decorating tomorrow. So that's my plan. Oh, and I found my ham. Yesterday I went to go grab it real quick and it wasn't where I thought it should be, but it was exactly where I thought it would be, but it was just had literally just something in front of it, so I couldn't find it while I was live. But this is a ham. It is pretty solid. It's wool, stuffed with wool, and it can take the heat, and it fills in all the curves when you're ironing, because an ironing board is flat, but our bodies are curved, and so a lot of the seams have to go over bends and curves, and this ham fits perfectly in a lot of them. I also have an arm, is it called an armhole? It's like a thinner version of this for a sleeve roll to put in your sleeve, and I have an anvil for ironing too. I really like ironing tools because they make the job significantly easier. But if you don't know what they're for, you don't know how to use them, and therefore they are not very much help. But once you know. But I have a ham. Hopefully I don't need it today, but you never know. If I have it, I won't need it. If I don't have it, I will. So put that aside. Good morning. We have people here. Hello, Michael Snell and Dan Does Junk. Good morning, good morning. Okay, so today I have my pattern that I have been drawing all over. I am going to fold back my seam allowance and then draw in how big I want my collar and kind of figure out that pattern. And then I'll have to transfer it and cut it out of the right fabric. And I apologize about the lawnmower. I'm just earlier, so my neighbor's getting their lawn mowed. It looks nice. But that is the background rumbling, if you guys can even hear it. Okay, let me see. I need... this back here. And a marker so you guys can see, because let's be real, you guys can't see the pencil that shows up on this stuff. Okay, my question is, how big of a collar do I need to make it? I'm folding back the seam allowance, but the seam allowance is pulling a little funny because it's a curve. Granted, it's a loosely woven fabric, but it's not laying completely flat because of the curve, and so this part's pulling here. I can pin it down and force it and kind of smoosh it and smoosh it, but it is going to alter the neckline if I do that. Curves, curves, curves. You smoosh it and you smoosh it. All right. Michael Snell, good question. What is the standard seam allowance, inch or so? Okay, when I am doing a custom piece that I know I'm going to adjust sizing, etc., I will do a full inch seam allowance because it gives me the wiggle room to really design and work with it. Mostly I do that on more high-end projects, bodices, bustiers, things that have a lot of seaming and such, but 1 inch seam allowance is very wasteful. It's very convenient when you are designing, but it's very wasteful when you are just assembling something that should already be together. Standard seam allowances for manufactured patterns are 5/8 of an inch, which is just such a random size and number, and I get it why they do it, but I refuse. I do not like the way it looks. It's just, I do not use the 5/8 seam allowance. I will trim down my seam allowance on commercial patterns, but I have not used a commercial pattern in years. I can't say that really anymore because oh, you guys can't see it. The dress is hanging up right there. But that one pattern piece dress that I made, that was a commercial pattern. It was really simple and really easy, and I don't know if that honestly had 5/8 inch seam allowance. I don't think it honestly mattered too much because it's one of those one size fits most. But 5/8 is standard. I refuse to use. But personally, when sewing, I use either a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch. I use 1/2 inch seam allowances for my main seams and 1/4 inch seam allowances for curved seams. Here's a question. Why would I use a narrow seam allowance for a curved seam, but a regular seam allowance for all my other main seams? All right, let me draw on. This is my least favorite ruler, but at least it's clear. All right. I want this to be a Peter Pan collar. What is a Peter Pan collar? It is... Oh yeah, I still have a picture you guys can see. So this one's pointy. I'm going to make it round, but a little Peter Pan collar that splits in the front, but I kind of want it to be solid in the back. So working on the collar. Interesting. I thought it was rounded, and now that I see that it's kind of square, I still want it rounded. I want about a 2-inch collar, nothing too much. All right, let's see. All right, collar drawn in. It isn't too much, but I think it'll be really nice. It's following this curve. So take these pins out, and then I have this seam allowance added back into it, but I can't well, I could add seam allowance down here. I'd still have to add it to this side, but I'm not going to use this pattern piece to cut it out of my fabric. I got this giant piece of plastic. The plastic bags we used to put the fabric rolls in is a really good heavy-duty fabric plastic. I made a whole 1700s ball gown out of this plastic. I think it's in the background of my suit costume idea video, but this stuff is great. I'm just going to lay it on top, trace my outline, and add my seam allowance onto this and cut that out. So Nice. This project I am working with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, I traced it on. Now I have to add seam allowance. This ruler has a 1/2 inch seam allowance built in. It's that light pink bar on this side. Dan does junk. Who drew the concept sketch? That would be Raul Gonzo, the person who I am working with on this project. Hopefully he will be here tomorrow. So I wanted to get this done so I'm not working on this while he is here. Seam allowance. I find it very peaceful drawing on the seam allowance. I know there's little tricks where you can like tape 2 pencils together and do it, but Okay, this is cut out. Let me find non-fabric scissors. Okay. You know what? This is going to go on the fold. So I'm going to cut off this seam allowance. Let me label it, place on fold. Okay. Pattern piece for my collar. Yay. Let me turn on this stay. Okay. Oh, we're doing great on time. Let me go grab my silk. So this is a silk chiffon. It's the same stuff that I was going to make the hood out of for Princess Leia, but it was too lightweight, a little too sheer. Yeah, a little too sheer, but it'll be perfect for this collar. Let me find my grain line. This whole edge is a curved edge because I believe this was cut a hem that was shortened, or the train that was cut off. So here's my straight up grain, here and here. Okay. Sorry about that. When you are working with scraps, you can often get a little lost on your pieces. Lose where your grain was, etc. But just kind of lining it up so things don't twist and turn is kind of important. Michael Snell, do you normally make your own patterns? Yes, I do. It is my favorite part. My least favorite part of the whole sewing, creating, and stuff, believe it or not, is cutting out the fabric. Because that's when you're committed, making mistakes, etc. You know, cutting the fabric's the worst. But patterning is by far my favorite part. I will do it in my sleep. How do these pieces together? In fact, I made this jumpsuit I'm wearing. I absolutely love it. It has pockets. So this was a pattern that I made a couple years ago, and I made like 3 or 4 of these jumpsuits. But yes, I make my own patterns. And if I can do it, I believe in you. I really do. Okay, is this hot yet? Yeah, it's hot. H7O Polo, welcome. Okay. This silk I have to be kind of careful with because its texture will change with moisture. If you keep the moisture consistent throughout the whole thing, it's fine. But if you spot clean it, like if you get a little smudge of blood or ink or etc., trying to just clean that one spot is going to definitely damage the fabric than if you just wash the whole piece. Ask me how I know. Okay. Yesterday I was like, oh my gosh, vintage fabric smells amazing. And now I'm over here ironing the silk going, forget how much I like the smell of silk. It has really fun. Okay. A little more. Michael Snell, how does one make their own patterns? I have no idea what my measurements are. Very good question. So one of the things that I want to do when I reach 1,000 subscribers is do a custom pattern for one of my viewers. A t-shirt pattern, basic starting spot, but I'm going to walk y'all through it of how you would just, what measurements do you need, how you would kind of mark them out, and so if you want me to do that, subscribe. That would be helpful, because once I hit that, then I'm definitely going to do that video. But I find it more confusing trying to adjust an already made pattern than it is to just make your own. But that's usually because I already know what I want. Okay. Nice. You smoosh it and you smoosh it, and then eventually it looks lovely. Okay. H7O Polo. There is a meme recently about how girls have pockets in their dresses, show you. And that's funny you did it. Yep, it has pockets. Well, this is the first time I ever purposely designed pockets because I was like, you know what? This outfit needs pockets. And I absolutely love the way these ones turned out because they're nice and deep. Fit my whole hand in there. They're comfortable. But yes. Peek. I know it doesn't click, but smoosh it and you smoosh it. All right, place this on the fold. I'm going to use my phone as a pattern weight. I have fancy pattern weights. Should I use those? I should. One. Okay, I have one pattern weight that I can easily find. And honestly, that's enough. Okay. And the lawnmower's right there, but it's fine. You should check the meme out. I should. Danda's Junk says the closest, cheapest. I can't read that word because it's behind a little heart emoji like on my screen. I don't know how to get rid of. You can have yourself as a duct tape dummy since it's literally patterned off your body. Duct tape dress forms are great. They're messy. I have 2 dummies based off of my body. One's made out of floor mat foam, and one is a cast that I made in college. I think the floor mat foam was the cheapest. Duct tape ain't cheap. It's really not. Floor mat foam, that is cheap, but a great way to get your pattern and then transfer it to floor mat foam and cut it out is great for making a dummy. But you have to be careful because the thickness of the floor mat foam will add up as you go around. So you need to take the thickness of the foam into consideration when you are converting a, let's say, duct tape pattern into a foam pattern. Ask me how I know. The measurements for the foam dress form are my updated measurements. So, yeah. Stay still. I'm using my paper scissors to cut out this silk, and it's doing nice. But these are nice scissors. They are Westcott scissors. They're antimicrobial, which I think is an interesting feature to have on a pair of scissors. Makes sense, but... I believe I need 4 of these, 2 for each side. 1. H70 Polo. Hey Felicia, to get to the heart of the way temporarily, you can click the... Oh, I am currently on live chat, not on top chat. Oh, that's how I move that stupid logo? Thank you. Okay. I wonder, let me... I don't know what I just did. It didn't change the position of that stupid heart. Thank you, though. All right. moving this all around. Stay, stay, stay. I have pattern weights everywhere except for when I need them. Okay, everything's lining up, it works. Putting these to the side because they're tiny pattern pieces and they often look like scraps. All right. This little wrinkle in the plastic is bothering me, but not enough to do anything about it. Okay. What am I doing wrong? I am not flat. There we go. Okay. Jeez. Alright, I just need one more piece cut out, and I couldn't get it out of that weird spot, so get from here. Huh. Okay, let me get this last piece. I have a straight edge. This edge is straight, this edge is curved. What's really nice about the silk organza is that it will tear straight a grain. So if I get really lost on one of these random scrap pieces, I can tear it or pull a thread and find out exactly where I'm supposed to be. I think that's the biggest trap of using scraps, is getting off from your, getting disoriented from your grain line. Grain line's important because if it's not straight, you will have your pattern piece will curve on you in ways you don't want it to. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay. If you edit your live stream settings, you can uncheck the live reactions, and that should make the heart go away. Okay, cool. I'm not going to deal with it today, but that heart is a little annoying because it just blocks one little word and the newest comments always for me. Yes, but nicely. Yes, these paper scissors are sharp, but they do not have that bent handle. And a bent handle is really good for keeping your fabric flat so it doesn't get distorted while you're cutting it out. So that you can get a cleaner edge. This little bumpy edge bothers me, but it'll get encapsulated, so it'll be fine. Okay. I like your creative thought process, Michael. So now just push, thanks, after every question to push it up so I can finish reading it. That's hilarious. Okay. Let me pin these all together. I'm going to hang this. No, I need this out. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. These are shifty fabrics. 3 and so one thing you can do to make chiffon a little easier to sew and work with is, remember how we starched, oh, it's not right there, it's right, starch this fabric right here, how it's crunchier and has more body to it. You can also starch your silk. Make it significantly easier to work with, and then the starch will wash right out. But I'm not going to bother with with starch, but just putting that out there if you are struggling, because silky fabrics can be tricky because they like to shift around a lot. And I have a really intense needle on my sewing machine currently. I still have that leather needle that I sewed through the belt with on it. And although it's been just fine on the wool, because that wool is a really nice, heavy duty, easy to sew wool. If I start to snag on this, I'm just going to change my needle, because I know that that would solve all the issues. Okay, I am going to sew, if we look at this shape, I'm going to sew all the way around the edge, but this inner curve I'm going to leave open. I'm going to flip it there, and then it's going to attach to the cape at the seam, in the seam allowance, so I don't need to completely encapsulate it. So that's the plan. This one's pinned. Let me pin this one. Okay. Michael Schnell. So should I get a professional to measure me? What kind of measurements do I need for, say, a button-up shirt? Okay, so it is not recommended to measure yourself when you are taking your measurements, because let's just say we're doing our shoulder to waist at side. So shoulder to waist at side. As soon as you look down to see your measurement, see what happens to this? What is my measurement? I'm right here. Let me look down. That can change the measurement 2 inches. Trying to get the back shoulder measurement. Yeah, honestly, I measure myself all the time. I'm not saying you can't. I also have dress forms that I can reference. And sometimes it's just like, oh, let me see real quick. But because of the, like, at the wedding dress shop that I used to work at, we would get a list of numbers. And sometimes the numbers looked funny. And it's like, why does this doesn't match? And so looking at the photos, it either is going to show you why it looks funny, because sometimes I look at it going, this is going to pull funny, but then you see the person and their shirt's pulling the funny way that you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. And then other times you're like, this measurement doesn't make sense. Why does it make sense? Well, I think sometimes it's because they measured like this. They looked and it changed it. So it is definitely helpful to have somebody else measure you. Professionally, unprofessionally, not measuring yourself is a good thing, but also sometimes referencing your own shirt. How does it fit me? Do I like the way where it hits me on my shoulders? I can take that measurement just directly from my shirt. So no, you do not have to get professionally measured, but don't measure yourself. Have somebody else help you. It will make measurements significantly easier. And then also when you're measuring, like if you're doing a circumference, you don't pull it as tight as you can because that'll make it uncomfortable and then there's no breathing room. Even when I'm pulling it as tight as I can, I have a finger stuck in between me and the measuring tape. That gives you just a little bit of wiggle room sticking your finger in there, so it'll change up the measurements ever so slightly, but for comfort reasons. Is this one upside down? No. It's kind of gotta, there we go. You smoosh it and you smoosh it. So no, you do not have to get professionally measured, but yes, have somebody else help measure you. Where is it? I just had it a second ago. Oh, on this table, I had a list of measurements because I just made a custom pattern for my mother, of all people. I made her own pattern set, and the measurements that I took from her were shoulder to shoulder, shoulder to apex, apex to waist, shoulder to waist at side. Those are the most important ones that I use for creating my bodice pattern. And then from there, you need your upper arm measurement, arm length, sleeve length, for putting in the sleeve, shoulder, 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 apex, apex to waist, shoulder to waist at side, and then bust, waist, hips, circumference. So there's the round measurements and then there's the linear measurements. Yeah. Michael's now thinking of measuring my circumference will make me cry, lol. Yeah, that's why I try not to talk actual measurements and numbers and be vague on that point, because it really doesn't matter. It's just giving you a place to start that will work for you. So, yes. I know I'm not sewing this curve, but this is the curve that has to attach to that neckline, and so it needs to stay the same. But yes. Oh, one of my favorite equations for patterning a bodice is figuring out the armhole depth and that is bust divided by 6 plus 1. Huh? Such an obscure like formula, and I love it because it gives you a place. So if you take your bust dimension divided by 6, that is going to give you from your shoulder to how deep your armhole should be. And then the plus 1 is usually because it up in your armpit is not going to be comfortable. The higher up your armhole is, the more motion you have for moving, especially in woven fabrics, because it won't start pulling up your fabric. So the higher the armhole, the better, but it's kind of really uncomfortable to have stuff up in your armpit. So dropping it down an inch keeps it from being up too high. That's helpful when you're shopping for dress shirts as guys, kind of having that number in mind, because when you go look at dress shirts, they have the biggest armholes, especially renting suits. That's one of my, I hate the clips that make the sizes interchangeable, because those clips add 4 inches of bulk to your total circumference at your hip/waistline. Those things are not thin, they are clunky, and they do the plastic clipping, which is nice, but I hate those. And then also in trying to get suit jackets to fit varieties of sizes and shapes, the armholes are often ridiculously low and it looks like you're borrowing a suit. So just kind of keeping that in mind when you're shirt shopping and suit jacket shopping, kind of gives you an idea of, oh, this is going to fit nicely, or this is just going to look like I borrowed my dad's suit. Okay. Uno más. Okay. I have green thread in here. I need white thread because unlike, oh, it's over there, my muslin layer, you will actually see the thread on this, so. Okay. Danda's junk. I made another Saiyan armor and took more away from the underarm across my arms now while wearing it. Yep. Armholes are imperative on movement. That's why our front armholes and back armholes are often different. Jeez. Oh, here it is. Is for movement reasons. Michael Schnell, yeah. Any guy who has rented a tux knows that the feeling of expecting your pants to fall down at any moment because they weren't made for you. So, it costs about $200 to rent a suit at the end of the day, locally for most of the places around here for renting suits. I've had to rent them for lots of occasions, including Smosh and weddings, etc. I do not like renting suits. I do not think it's worth the money. I think if you're going to spend $200 at the end of the day, you should own the suit. Pants aren't that expensive. A jacket isn't that expensive, and the suit shirt. And then you have a suit that you can use for other occasions. I really don't like rented suits. They're not worth it to me. Um, yeah, I like Target suits though. Target, I like their fit. And Amazon, they have cheaper fabrics, but I don't hate the way those ones look. Macy's often has their suits on sale. Their suits are about $500 to own, unless you get it on sale. So I just have opinions about rented suits. I've had to do it so many times that I can appreciate why they do what they do, but then I don't think it's like, for me, if I have to go rent a suit, I would rather just buy one at the end of the day. Granted, I'm a lady and my figure is completely different than a suit figure, and it would be beneficial, but even still, renting it for, I think the first time I had to rent a suit for Smosh was when we did every awards ceremony ever, and honestly, the rented suits looked like crap, but the ones that I bought were my favorites. And I used that opportunity to get a bunch of jackets from Target. Okay, I am going to do a test piece of fabric because I think that this needle might need to be changed, and I don't want to ruin my nice pattern pieces that I cut out and find out on my thing. I'd rather just find out on a scrap. Nobody likes snag silk. Ugh. Beautiful. I'm going to up the tension ever so slightly because the thread's pulling. It's not pulling, it's just... All right, that looks nice. Okay. Not necessary. And I don't want this fabric getting all funky. Because you're leading it through, you're not pushing it through. You just have to be gentle. And sewing fast is better than sewing slow. And I know sewing slow sounds like it would be better, but sewing fast gets the fabric through without getting it all bunched up. My gosh, now sewing machines terrify me. They seem so complicated with all the different feet, needles, stitches, settings, etc. Can it be used with just some basic components and settings? Yes, actually, I don't change my foot up very much at all. This is the same foot that I've had on it since I've gotten the sewing machine. I put this foot on because it's clear and I can see what I'm doing. And then I also put some Teflon tape on the bottom of this foot so that it smoothly goes over vinyl and plastic and all these other weird things that I've been sewing with. The Teflon tape, a Teflon foot, oh my gosh, do I appreciate a good Teflon foot. If you just have one of those, you're fine. I like this one. It's what I have. I like a computerized sewing machine because you just turn it off and on again and you're back to straight stitch. The basic without having to get complicated. I don't like the sewing machines with the dials that you have to tune. I feel like that's where I get so complicated, and then getting the tensions and trying to figure out how I want it to go straight stitch. How can I just make it go straight after changing it to be a zigzag or something crazy? That's not that crazy, but you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Sewing machines can be really complicated and stupid, but I appreciate a computerized one because I could just literally turn it off and on again, and I'm back to the straight stitch at the right stitch length. And then my tension doesn't get messed up because it's here. That's a tangible one that I have to roll. But ta-da! All right, put that onto the ironing board. Let's do the other one. I love that your solution of saying thanks after your comment really does help, because now I can read the comments without that emoji getting in the way. Yeah. Michael Snow, what's a zigzag stitch for? Good question. Give me a second. Sorry, I just want to do this while it's... Oh, it's so shifty. There we go. All right, good question about the zigzag stitch. What is the zigzag stitch for? Did you know that most industrial sewing machines just sew in a straight line? They don't have all these fancy stitches. All they really have is a straight stitch. So why do we have zigzag stitches? Why are they on our home sewing machines, and how can we use them so much? Zigzag stitch kind of cover. A straight stitch has no stretch in it. If you put it on a stretchy fabric, it will pop the seam. A zigzag stitch will stretch. So there's stretch in this stitch. So if you sew a stretchy fabric with a zigzag stitch, even if it's just a slight zigzag stitch, it'll keep your stitches from popping. You can also use it to finish edges of seams so that it's just covered. It's decorative, but mostly zigzag stitches are flexible, and so that's why you would use a zigzag stitch versus a straight stitch, because straight stitches are very rigid, and if you pull on it, it will pop and rip the stitch. So, yes, let me push. Sewing machine down. Okay. Thank you for all these questions. They're interesting. Bad Wolf Custom Airbrushing and Decals. Good morning, Felicia. Good morning, Bad Wolf Custom Airbrushing and Decals. Okay. Now that I stitched it, I am going to press it flat and smoosh those stitches. Seal those stitches together, and then we can go from there. So remember how I told you I usually use about a 1/2 inch seam allowance or a 1/4 inch seam allowance, 1/4 inch for curves and a 1/2 inch seam allowance for almost everything else. had I done this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance instead of a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which I didn't because this fabric's so shifty, I'd rather have the 1/2 inch and then trim it down, is because when you turn it inside out, the seam allowance is going to get all pushed up into the seam, and it's going to get all bulky, and it's going to have these little folds and curves in there. But if you trim it, there's not so much bulk to try and smooth in there. So you can flip it without having to notch your curves. But I went with a 1/2 inch on this one, and I'm going to notch these curves, and you will see how nicely it smooths. Okay, one side and the other side. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take these little birdie scissors because they're pretty and I feel like using them. And I'm just going to cut little triangles out of this. I will show you in just a second. Okay. Can you see right here? On this curved part, I took little bites out. That way, when it goes inside the curve, the extra bulk is now gone, and this curve will lay so much flatter. All right, let me do this curve. Okay. Michael Schnell, thank you for your answers. I want to learn sewing, but know next to nothing. I feel like I learn more about it before I begin. It might, can't see whatever that word is, not be as intimidated by it. Yes, but also, I feel like sewing's one of those things you got to do. You can know all the right things and still make the same mistakes. Oftentimes it's like, why? Oh, that's why. Because sometimes a little step early on will make, as annoying as it is, will make it so much easier further down the road if you just take the time to, like, notch your curves. A little step. I'm trying. But okay. Turn this inside out. All right. I don't have a bone folder here. I have lots of sharp objects. I don't necessarily want a sharp object. It's not getting hot. I'm like, why does this feel like it's not doing its job? Because it's not. Confetti. Mazel tov. Okay. Okay. I feel like I can kind of get a little few chunks out of this edge because it is a curved edge, but this is a sheer fabric and we're going to be able to see the seam allowance on the inside. So I don't want too many triangles chopped out except for at the curved spots where I need them. Oh, there we go. There goes the steamer. Okay. What's the brand of your iron? This one's a Panasonic. It's an NI 1500Z. Okay. So much confetti. Let me get rid of that. Okay. I hate it when the seams aren't flat and they're kind of I hate it when the seams aren't flat and it looks like I don't know how to explain it, but I know exactly what I'm trying to avoid. So it's better to fight this with the iron than it is to fight it with the sewing machine. The iron, you just kind of press it till it's right. Sewing machine, ugh, I'm not ripping out seams. Okay. Oh. You smoosh it and you smoosh it and you smoosh it. There's one side. I feel like I'm still going to debulk the seams a little bit more in there, but I want to press this one first. You smoosh it and you smoosh it. The better I press this, the better it'll look. I am going to do a layer of top stitching. I kind of wanted to do a scalloped edge, so using one of the fancy stitches. But a straight stitch would be really nice and clean looking too. All right, straight stitch or scallop stitch. I'll go with whatever you guys vote on. Remember how I told you starching it would make this whole process a lot easier? I still stand by that. Starching this shifty fabric would make this whole process a lot easier, but it's coming together very nicely. Okay. Okay, I can take a deep breath now. Whew. Yeah, all right. I think I'm gonna go for, let me see what my scallop stitch looks like. Otherwise, I think I'm just gonna go straight stitch. Where's my clapper? Are there any cosplayers that you follow on YouTube? I'm always looking for more content to watch. Cosplayers specifically? Not necessarily. That's a good question. All right. Turn this off for a minute. Out of my way. All right. Let me grab a scrap piece of fabric, and I am going to try the scalloped edge, and then I'm going to try a straight stitch and see which one I think is prettier. On this sewing machine, it's stitch number 13. This is its regular size without changing any of its settings. Pretty cute, but that is already getting all tangled up and messed up. Let me try again. If I go here, keep the edges lined up. Nope, that's gonna be a pain in the butt. Not gonna happen. We're gonna do straight stitch. Turn it off, turn it on again, and we're back to straight stitch. Michael Schnell, what's the scallop stitch? It is a decorative stitch that does little scallops. It takes the zigzag stitch and it does a zigzag stitch. Do I have any? So it's a scallop stitch, but the sewing machine is going zigzag, thicker zigzag, thinner zigzag, thinner, thicker, and it's zigzagging in this pattern so that I can have a cool little scalloped edge on my using stitches. But I'm just going to use a straight stitch because the silk is just getting eaten by this. And I think a straight stitch would be nicer. All right. Ew, I don't like what it did to the edge, but when I press it, it will look a lot nicer. Ugh, not my favorite. Let me press it right now. Because if I don't like it, I'm not using it. Okay, not the worst. Okay. I am going to trim the inside seam allowance, but let me sew the other side first. Okay. Okay, whew. There we go. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me press this. Yes. Oh, it pretties up nicely. Okay, whew. So, one. And we have a collar. It's the good news is it all lines up. But I'm going to trim off all this excess inside because I don't like the way it looks. Where are my tiny scissors? Here they are. Probably should have debulked it before I did my top stitching, but I wanted to make sure that I caught all the seam allowance in my top stitching. Yeah. Trim this down. Yes. Honestly, normally I would have done this with 1/4 inch seam allowances, but I also would have serged it too using my serger. But I do not use my serger while I'm live because That's just too much pressure. Too much pressure. As much as I love a serger, the thought of trying to thread it live, not going to happen anytime soon. Okay. Oh, wow, that looks much better. Okay. I have to trim this side too. The green cape and white now remind me of Attack on Titan. Yeah, I've thought about doing those costumes before. Haven't yet, but I've thought about it. Okay, I'm going to get some spray starch. I think some spray starch on this would make everything all crunchy the way I want it to look. I don't have it with me here, so we'll just... press it nicely. Michael Snell, do you hand stitch often? Seems like you'll need to when it comes to those stitches that you can't really see. I do hand stitch a lot. There's not, like, sewing machines are amazing, and they got rid of a lot of the tedious work, but hand stitching is invaluable. It can get you in places that sewing machines can't. It can sew fabrics that sewing machines can't. Okay. Yes. Ooh, an interfacing or an inner lining would have probably made this more crunchy, but I just wanted it to be really lightweight and sheer, so... Anyways, yeah. Okay, so I am going to call it oh wow. I've been at this for over an hour. I got my collars done. I think it's going to look lovely. I'm going to get some spray starch and starch that because I think it will make everything the right kind of crunchy. Just that can go away. It's bothering me. Tomorrow, I'm really excited. I'm not exactly sure what time. I have to go touch bases with Raul about what time he's going to be coming over to work on this, but tomorrow is my favorite part of this whole project. It's the designing, the decorating, and where we're actually going to be adding all the miniatures to this. So right now, I am at my halfway point. I have intentionally not sewn the cape 3 layers together because I want to draw on, you guys can't see it, the canvas layer to make my map of where everything's going to go. And I wanted to make sure that also when I'm trying to figure out where everything is going to go, that I can put these ribs appropriately underneath it because I need to add more of these vertical ones. Maybe a few horizontal ones here or there to patch in some spaces, but I want to add more vertical ones. But it depends on where we're putting the houses, the cars, the cows, etc. So I'm not putting in any unnecessary ones until we get to that point. So that's sitting and waiting. This is just waiting for me to put in the thing and sewing around the edges. And I want to do double welted pocket. Well, not pockets, handholes. So right here, where I left the space here, I want to do big, large slits for you to stick your arms out of the cape. And it's going to go through all the layers, but the top 3 layers are going to be one piece, and this is going to be a completely separate piece. And honestly, once I get all the boning in, I could probably just trim out all this fabric so it's just an empty hole. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I haven't 100% I don't 100% know what's going to happen, but tomorrow I will have a good idea of what I need to do going forward, because it's the fun part. I get to add all the little decorative elements. And I love that this cow right here, you guys can't see, is sturdy, and he is on the side, and yeah, I think it's going to work out great. I'm excited about this. Yes. All right. It's an early morning. I got to get going. I have stuff to do today. I will see you guys tomorrow on Thursday. Yeah, tomorrow's Thursday. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll let you know what time. It'll probably be in the morning. Not this early, though. For sure. Definitely not this early. I can't do this early tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Until next time.